I discovered this version from a little fishing port down south called Whitby. You might know Whitby. And I found this version called the Whitby Tailor. And basically the story is of a very shy tailor, right? And you have to leave a gap between those two words because he wasn't a bad tailor, he was just shy. And then he used to spend all of his... Do you want a few minutes to think about that one? And he used to spend all of his days in his workshop making clothes. And he never got out, and he didn't have any social skills anyway when he did go out. He was pretty hopeless in company. And then one New Year's Eve he decides he's going to go to the local village dance and he's going to get himself a girlfriend. But he makes a couple of really big mistakes. The first big mistake he makes is that he thinks in order to get this girlfriend, he's got to get really, really drunk. Right? Now, I know it works sometimes, but in this particular case, it goes fairly seriously wrong for him. But that's mainly because of the second big mistake he makes, and that is he forgets to put his underpants on when he goes to the dance. Now, this song has got about 15 verses and tells the story brilliantly, but there is a couple of little bits that you should know about first. He does get himself a girlfriend. She sits him down, she pays him lots of compliments. He doesn't know how to respond because he's never been in that situation before. And so the only thing he can think of in order to impress this young lady is to suggest that they swap clothes. He says, look, you put my trousers on and I'll put your skirt and petticoats on, and when I've got your skirt and petticoats on, I'll go off dancing round the dance hall like a woman. Now, I don't know if you've tried it here in Hebden Bridge, but it certainly doesn't work around Gateshead area, apart from a couple of the more modern bars that we have there now. So anyway, this happens, he goes off dancing around the dance floor in her clothes, and of course she legs it out of the dance floor and off down the road in his trousers, because all she was really interested in was his money. Hard to believe, I know, but that was a long time ago, you know. And thankfully it's not like that these days. So he tries to follow her, he runs after her, tries to follow her, and of course while he's trying to follow her, his skirt and petticoats fall off, revealing the fact that he's forgotten to put his underpants on, if you know what I mean. Fortunately though, he's wearing a trilby hat, and he manages to get the trilby hat off and cover up one of the great folky euphemisms, his Uncle Joe. It's called the Whitby Tailor. Now it's all the brisk young tailor, the story I'll relate. In a village near to Whitby town, fine garments he'd create. In a village near to Whitby town, this tailor wants to do out, and wine and women's company he loved exceeding well. Oh well, he loved exceeding well, and wine and women's company he loved exceeding well. Now the village dance one New Year's Eve this tailor did attend. I'm sure that he'd have stayed at home could he have seen the end. This jolly little tailor, he'll never forget that night, for never yet was tailor seen in such a sorry plight. A plight in such a sorry plight, for never yet was tailor seen in such a sorry plight. Now the tailor he sat drinking a glass or two of wine, that not being used to drink, and it caused his face to shine. It caused his face to shine, just like the morning sun. And he swore he'd have a bonny lass before the night was done. Was done, before the night was done. He swore he'd have a bonny lass before the night was done. Well, the tailor danced and sang, he had whiskey many a tot. That jolly little tailor was the merriest of the lot. He danced with ladies old and young, he swung them round and round. Then one fair maiden took his arm, she asked him to sit down. Sit down, she asked him to sit down. And one fair maiden took his arm and asked him to sit down. Well, she took him in her arms, she called him her dear honey. But as they sat a talking, she was thinking of his money. She was thinking of his money when the tailor smiled and said, if you lend me your petticoats, I'll dance like a maid. A maid, I'll dance like a maid. If you lend me your petticoats, I'll dance like a maid. So the tailor slipped his breeches off, the petticoats put on, and the maid, the tailor's breeches, she quickly did adorn. Then the tailor danced the dance, while the fiddler played the tune, and the maiden danced his breeches right out of the room. The room, right out of the room. That maiden danced his breeches right out of the room. Well, you bring me back me breeches, the tailor loud to call. Oh, bring me back me breeches, with me money, watch and all. Now the company all stood watching, and with laughter they did roar, when the little tailor's petticoats fell down upon the floor. The floor fell down upon the floor. That little tailor's petticoats fell down upon the floor. Oh Lord, said the tailor, wherever you may be. Oh Lord, said the tailor, have pity now on me. This jolly little tailor, well, he didn't know what to do, 'cause his little shirt was far too short to cover all below. Below, to cover all below. His little shirt was far too short to cover all below. Well, it was then the fiddler played a tune for all that he was worth, and the tune that he played was called The Cock of the North. Now the ladies were delighted, but they loudly shouted no, when the tailor took his trilby off and he covered Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, Uncle Joe, he covered Uncle Joe. That tailor took his trilby off, covered Uncle Joe. Well, at last the little tailor got out into the street, where a bevy of fair damsels he chanced there for to meet. These ladies screamed with laughter when the tailor did appear. They all gathered round and wished to him Happy New Year, New Year, New Year, a Happy New Year. They all gathered round and wished him Happy New Year. But this jolly little tailor these ladies did address. Says he, it's not very ladylike to laugh at man's undress. The ladies to the tailor said, give us no more of that. If you call yourself a gentleman, why don't you raise your hat? Your hat, your hat, why don't you raise your hat? If you call yourself a gentleman, why don't you raise your hat? Now in that village near to Whitby town, there's old men living yet, and they'll tell you all the famous dance they never will forget. Old ladies too will tell you of the dance they love the best, when the jolly little tailor he showed his cuckoo's nest. His nest, his nest, he showed his cuckoo's nest. That jolly little tailor he showed his cuckoo's nest. He showed his nest, his nest. He showed his cuckoo's nest. That jolly little tailor showed his cuckoo's nest. He did.